we want to welcome you to the table. We just left you. This is our second episode that we're doing tonight because I am on vacation this week when you're watching this. And
where are you going?
I'm going to Myrtle Beach. It's not the best weather going on right now, but we're taking all of my kids and grandkids to the beach, and which I would rather not lay out. I would just want to play with my babies in the pool and things like that. So we're gonna go down there and have a family vacation. Hopefully, like all of us in the same.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot. Yes, I have 4 kids, and one daughter has 2 babies. My son has a. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, and we're taking the mother-in-laws too. My mom and David's mom are going. So
that'll be good.
Yeah. We're thankful we were able to go. So we are talking about Billy Crone. He was at our church this past weekend, and it was such a blessing. And he talked about aliens and our world and where we live, and then he ended on Sunday with how to be joyful in the last days. Right? Is that what it was?
Yep.
And man, we just enjoyed it because it took us. We learned things that we didn't learn. Had never heard about, and then he had the proof to back it up. So that's what I love. I'm not somebody who just believes anybody, and I don't mean to be like that. I want to believe you when you say, but not everybody's truthful, and not everything is, So we were just having a talk before this. We were talking about, demon possession, and we talked about this on the last podcast a little bit, and how scary that can be. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to have we have a pastor, Rico, that is here in our community, and he's actually my girls that do my sound and everything. It's their pastor, and so he did street ministry for a very long time.
He saw things.
Yes, and so we're going to ask him questions, and me and him hit it off. I mean, we met, and it was just like we knew that when the time came, somehow we were going to get in ministry at the same time, same place. He's great, and he's got lots of energy. So I know that when I told him, because we've been praying for revival. I've been praying for revival for 4 years. And he came to a yard sale at my mom's, and we were talking about it. And I told him, I said, if you want revival, then we need to have testimonies of what the Lord has done. Because when I start telling people what Jesus has done for me and saved me from, I could run. Just run. I don't know. I've never ran, but I want to. It's just, I want to run. And he told me, he said, I'd run right behind you. So I was like, okay. But the joy of the Lord is, it's different for me now. Yeah. That I'm sober, that I'm healthy, that I'm able to stand. And I shared earlier in the other podcast that I don't need all that anymore. I don't need those coping things. I had a coping issue. I didn't know how to go through this life and cope healthy. I would eat, or I would drink, or I'd smoke something, or I'd take something or whatever. And I loved Jesus during that whole time. Mm-hmm. And I truly was saved. I had a coping issue. And sometimes we get so caught up in how we cope, we let that be our identity. And I used to be ashamed of it. I used to not want to tell people that I'd, taken pills, or I'd smoked weed, or whatever, and loved Jesus. Like, how's that possible? And when my dad died, it's like the bottom of my life fell out. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't even prepared for it. I'd never lost anybody that close to me, grandparents, but I was unprepared because I wasn't walking with the Lord as I should. I went to church when I wanted to. I didn't really read. I just, thought Sundays were just good enough for me, And that's not true. You have to have Jesus in your life 100%. I mean, I don't even listen to secular music anymore. Not that it's bad if you do, but I just don't. I have no desire to listen to any kind of that crap.
It doesn't do anything for me.
And that's not something that I have to discipline myself. Like, I just don't have a place in my life for that anymore. And no one got me there but Jesus. And he healed me. And he never rushed me to lay anything down. But when he was done, when I had enough time for him to teach me by me seeking him, then he would say to me, okay, it's done. And times I'd pick it back up and I'd be like, Lord, I just can't. But I mean, this is just my story. I just needed Jesus to heal me from all of that. And it feels good to be on this side of it and not be ashamed of it. Now, my family might not be as, like my family, David still struggles with me just saying, oh, I used to take pills and, whatever. He struggles with that because he has never smoked a cigarette, never done anything. He's this little virgin boy when it comes to any kind of drugs. And I'm thankful he was a police officer. Hopefully our police officers aren't on drugs, but it makes him hard to understand my story. Yeah, hopefully. He just can't understand the coping. And it wasn't just with drugs. I was an overeater. I was a retail shopper. I mean, there's so many forms of addiction, and we just think it's a way of life. And so I'm just thankful to be here in this moment. And I know there's a lot of people, that's my main messages is I'm hooked on drugs. How did you get off of it? Jesus. It was just Jesus. And it's been over a 5-year period. I mean, he's even taken the retail shopping. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't go out and buy something when I'm sad, because I still will do that, like something small, but like I used to spend lots of money.
Yeah. He's reining you in.
He is. He's reining you in. That's what he does. He cleans your life up. And I don't know. I'm just that walking testimony. I was a horrible mess who loved Jesus. I was saved. And the Lord had used me, but I went through a period of my life of a 5-year period. And now it's like,
yeah, we've been doing this for almost 2 years now.
It's crazy. It has
an episode a week for 2 years.
That is crazy.
Like how many?
I love it though. I never get tired of talking about Jesus. People probably get tired of hearing me talk about Jesus or posting about Jesus or whatever, but that's just where we are. So yeah. I'm going to start out with reading this, and then Lisa's going to go over the notes because she took notes. She was so good.
I took some notes. I don't have a lot, but
on Sunday morning, my grandbaby was in my lap, so I did not take any notes, because I was holding her. So, but if you have not heard Pastor Billy Crone, I encourage you to go and listen to him because he is dropping some bombs and some things you just can't. But like me, it took me a minute. He had to show me the proof.
Yeah. And even he does such a good job.
He does. Like, he shows you the proof. Because when he would say something, I'd be like, I'm not sure about that. And then boom, 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 boom. And then he would tie it into the Bible. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
Man. So this is called the midbar. Now, there's some words in here. I don't speak Greek or Hebrew or anything like that. So the midbar is actually, this is the title of this. This is the Book of Wisdom. The Book of Mysteries by Jonathan Cahn. And my friend Carolyn Gatewood let me borrow it and read it. She's got all her little, I'm not going to write in her book, but I've got all her little, and it is exactly what I would have underlined. But it says, so the midbar is the name of this. And it says, he took me out into the desert to an immense valley surrounded by reddish mountains, which turned increasingly purple and blue as they extended out into the far distance. What words come to your mind, said the teacher, when you look at the desert wilderness? Dry, barren, hot, I don't know what that is, severe, hard, and forbidding. And when people go through hard times like loss, crisis, tragedy, loneliness, conflict, hardships, problems, separation, tears, they speak of going through the wilderness. And yet the wilderness is a holy place. It was in the desert wilderness that God gave him the law, his word, and where he revealed his presence. The wilderness is holy. So the hard times in our lives are holy. For those who are his children, yes. And so it doesn't the only thing about this is it doesn't tell you it doesn't say, said the teacher. I mean, it just kind of goes in. So it's kind of hard to read at first. And so in Hebrew, a wilderness is called a midbar. Midbar comes from the root word davar.
Yeah.
And davar means to speak. What is the wilderness? It's the midbar. And what is the midbar? It's the place of God speaking, the place of his voice. It's where God especially talks to us. Why did he bring his people into the wilderness, into the midbar, so he could speak to them? He brought Moses into the midbar to speak to him through a burning bush. He brought Elijah to the midbar to speak to him in a still small voice. So too, he brings us into the wilderness that he might speak to us. And how many times do we hate being in the wilderness? I've dreaded being in the wilderness. Like, oh gosh, I don't want to go through this dry season again. I feel like that's where the hardest lessons are learned, but that's where the Lord is. That's where he speaks to us. So what is it about the wilderness that makes it a place of God speaking? Well, look around you, he says. What do you see? Not much, just rocks, sand, and mountain. And that's why, said his teacher, God speaks, but we don't hear. We have too many distractions, but in the wilderness, the distractions are gone. So God brings us into the wilderness that we might hear his voice. Therefore, do not fear or despise the wilderness of your life. And don't despise his removing of the distractions. Gosh, I just think about all the distractions that God has removed from my life that I thought, is this punishment? Is God taking this away from me? Rather, embrace it. Draw closer to him and listen to what he is saying. Seek to hear his voice, and you will hear him. For the wilderness in your life is not just a wilderness. It's holy ground, the midbar, the place of his voice. Mm-hmm. I have cold chills right now because in my personal season, hated the wilderness. I hated to go through it because I knew that it's a painful. Mm-hmm. You don't have the things that you need, that you want. We have the things that we need, but we want lots of stuff that makes us feel good, gets us comfortable, and the Lord takes all of that away when he really wants you to get it. So the next time you go through your wilderness, thank the Lord that you're there. He's growing you in your wilderness. And it really, when I reflect back in my life, it was in those wilderness moments that I thought I was far away from God. Mm-hmm. But man, I was closest to him. That's where my lessons were. That's where he taught me the most. And I read that today, and I'm telling, I could have ran.
I remember Pastor Lee said something about getting up and running during the service.
Yes.
And she sits like several rows up in front of me, and he said that.
I sit
too
far to the close.
She looks back at me when he said that and just smiles.
See? I mean, it just makes me want to run. I don't know. I think I got a little Pentecostal in me. I really do. And I love that. I love that.
The excitement.
The excitement of his word. You hear his word and you just can't contain it. But I contain it. I can contain it, but in my mind, I'm running around that sanctuary, jumping on the stage, woohoo! You know. So.
I don't know, like if you did get up and start running around the sanctuary, I don't know if I'd follow you, but I'd be cheering you on.
You go, girl! You go! I've watched you. You go. You run.
Or I'm like, I have this knee brace on that kind of doesn't let me bend my leg, and I'll just be like big legging it around behind you.
Hobbling around. There goes Christy. Round one. All right. So the joy in the last days. When you think about the last days, if you've ever read the Bible about the last days, there's not much joy in the last days. You know, you don't think about it. You don't think, when you read about last days, you're like, oh my gosh, this is all coming to the end. Here's the tribulation.
Sounds so bad. Yeah.
And so we won't be here for the tribulation, but we will be here up until the minute. I mean, as soon as the door closed, it started raining. It's immediate. Mm-hmm. As soon as they were let out of Sodom and Gomorrah, it was destroyed. Yeah. So I believe it's going to be immediate. Once we're gone, I'm telling you what, we talked about aliens in the last episode. That mothership's going to be there, and something's got to draw the attention away from the missing Christians.
Yeah.
So, all right. So tell us how to have the joy.
The number one thing is to remember God's in control.
That's right.
And that's very hard.
It is.
We want to control everything.
Yeah.
And he gave us Psalm 2, 1 through 12 to read for that. And then a reminder that we know what happens in the end. So God's the winner. We're not losers.
That's right.
You know?
But the enemy wants you. He wants to distract you. He wants you to get off focus and think, we're losing control.
Yeah.
Everything's out of control. You know, I mean.
God doesn't have this planned. When I promise you, go back and watch the videos or find the videos with Billy Crone, because he correlates everything that's happening today to the Bible. Mm-hmm. And it's neat to see, and it gives you the hope to be joyful in the last days.
So I believe we are in the last days. Mm-hmm. And if you look around, there's not a lot of things to be joyful about. You know, we've got this election coming up. We have Springfield, Ohio, where we have an influx of Haitians. And you can believe, if you want to or not, that they're eating the cats and the dogs. But I've been to China, And that's just in the meat markets. I mean, you could see the cat hanging and you could see the dog. They don't look at it like we look at it. It's survival. And so if I'd never been to China before, I probably would have had a hard time believing. Just like when I went to January 6th, I would have believed what everybody else believed and saw on the news. But I have my own video, of the front of the Capitol, all that. So I believe that he has allowed me. I mean, we adopted, that's why I went to China. We adopted a little 2-year-old. She's now 15. And
She's so sweet.
she is. And she's just loving life right now. But we've went through kid problems, we've went through marital problems, we went through drug problems, we went through, none of my kids were on the drugs. It was mom. So daggone it, but they've learned. Like, my kids are like, I don't want to be there where you were, and they've learned so much. They've saw the hurt that going the wrong way did, and so it's just good to be on this side of it. And for the first time in my life, experiencing joy without anything like great happening in your life. We tend to think that joy comes from what we have and, how much money we have and how big our house is, what kind of car we drive. And that's not where your joy comes from. Your joy comes from the Lord. Yeah. And if you don't have that joy that comes from the Lord, then you will be relying on things around you to make you happy. And that will never last. I've chased happiness in everything, and I've not ever found it except in Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So, keep your mind on the things above. Mm-hmm. So anytime you're down, I mean, just like Christy was saying, like, it's a mindset. It's the posture of your heart. And then he said, "Blessed are those," and I know this is a Bible verse. I just didn't write it down. "Blessed are those who take refuge in Him." Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then God fixes all things. And so he gave us 7 Bible verses that shows that God and states that God fixes all things. So Jeremiah 32:17, I'll read that one real quick. "Ah, Lord God, behold, you have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and by your outstretched arm. Nothing is too difficult for you, who shows loving kindness to thousands, but repays the iniquity of fathers in the bosom of their children after them. O great and mighty God, the Lord of hosts, and His name, host is His name, great in counsel and mighty indeed, whose eyes are open to all the ways of the sons of men." And then Matthew 19:26. "And looking at them, Jesus said to them, with people this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." Yes. And so for you guys to look up, Genesis 18:4, Isaiah 59:1, Job 42:2, Jeremiah 32:27, and then Colossians 1, I didn't write down the verse, but he upholds it and maintains it is the premise of that verse. Yep. And then just remembering, like, again, He's in control of everything, and His ways are higher, and His thoughts are higher.
And when we get that glorified body, we'll understand it. You know what I'm saying? Our minds will be able to understand everything that He has done, but we can't, because our minds can't hold that. Yeah. We just have to go by what God's Word says. It blows my mind, the people who just don't believe in Jesus. I don't know if it's like there's a guy, and I've showed this before on one of the beginnings of our videos, where he's walking around asking people, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And they're like, "No, yeah, no." I mean, and you're like, how do you get through a day? Yeah. How do you get through one single day? And so there's a lot of people that are going to be in the tribulation. And I'm just thinking, what is going to take place on this earth? I'm glad I'm gone. I'm glad I'm not. And I encourage you that, a lot of people don't believe in like a pre-trib rapture. You better hope there is. Even mid-trib. I don't want to go through the mid-trib. I don't want to go through the first couple seals of what's going to be happening. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to know who the Antichrist is.
I heard, I don't remember who said this, but people call the pre-trib
an escapist.
Okay,
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care to be that. I want to escape, because if you've read what's going to happen, you don't want to be here. I mean, in the very before, so like there's things that are going to happen. Those first seals are like, those are like child's play to the end part. You know, the mountains will no longer stand. Everything in the sea will be dead. The water will be turned to blood, and you won't be able to drink it. And if you don't put oh gosh, we didn't talk about that. So he was talking about this Visa card that will have a chip in it, and that's how they're going to kind of get it, because you can lose those things to buy and sell. So he has all the proof. I even know what the chip, it looks like just our normal Visa card, but you can lose that. So why do we want to put a chip in our hand? And so you can't lose it. So you can buy and sell. He talked about the 15-minute cities, and I'm just blown away. The things that everybody around me is like, oh, Christy, that's conspiracy. You are a conspiracy theorist. Oh, Billy Crone had it all. And I can't wait to go and get all this stuff, because there's not many people around me who believe in the 15-minute cities, who believe that we are in the last days. There's just a very few people. I mean, really, there's very few. Most people believe that we are just living. Everybody believes Trump's going to make this better.
There's a digital prison plan, and so this has to do with it's China's been using it for years, and it's their rating system on how you behave, and so they have certain behaviors and criteria on their list, and if you break one of these, you can't put your child in
regular school,
medical care. If you say something wrong that they don't agree with on Twitter, they'll take your ability to do whatever they want away.
It's like a grading scale.
And you have to be a trustworthy citizen by their standards.
Yep. And I've been to China, and I have seen how they treat their people over there.
I tried to tell my husband about this, and he was like, I don't believe that. I'm like, honey, if you had been there, you would have seen all this evidence.
So we have frustration too, because there's people in our lives and our family who don't believe, who think we're crazy. They're like, you're a conspiracy theorist. You are just, you study way too much. You need to not study so much. Like, it's not normal. That's just who I am now. And it was just so refreshing.
And one thing I did want to mention too is the 10 horn
that
kingdoms.
Was good. That was so good.
Ruled by the 10 kings. And so I don't remember what it was called, but they have a map, and this map has been out for a long time, of
who you gonna live
10
with?
10 regions, 10 kingdoms.
It's literally like the Hunger Games.
And they have put like Canada, the U.S., and Mexico all together, so that's one region.
And that's 10. We're region 10.
Yeah.
We're region 10. We're region 10. Who's coming across the border?
10 economic regions is what it was called.
So what they're going to do, they'll do away with the U.S.
It's the Club of Rome map, and it has 10 regions, 10 kingdoms around the world.
So go research that. The Club of Rome map. And if you're in our voice, if you can hear us and you're here in the U.S., we're region 10. What was the Hunger Games? How they say it? Well, you didn't watch the Hunger Games? Well, it's basically what's going to happen. Did y'all watch the Hunger Games? District. We're District 10.
Oh, yeah.
We're District 10. So.
Yeah, and
or y'all to be District 10. I want to be
go look up
District Heaven.
Go look up the North American Union and look into that. And then the whole thing with the they have a plan. Biden put this in his budget for $200 billion for housing for illegal immigrants. So all of this that's coming across, all these people, illegal immigrants, is because he put in his budget. The reason why they're not stopping it is because it's in his budget and this is their plan. And so they want all these people to come over
and listen,
to vote for the Democrats so they can have...
Yes, they'll get a vote. But here's the sad part. We used to go to Guatemala for mission trips, and I met some amazing people. And some of those people are now in the U.S. And they've contacted me, and, they're like, I'm over here in the U.S., I'm living in New York City, whatever. And, I'm happy because I know what they lived in, but they just didn't do it legally. And I still have we sponsored these boys, and
Oh, this gets me on fire.
I know. So we sponsor these boys, and one is still in Guatemala. He's in Guatemala City. You know, and he hopes to one day be able to come over because they see freedom. But not everybody is this good young man that's, you know, seeking freedom. And there's a lot of people a lot of countries open their prisons, and they're mentally ill, and they have sent them to us to deal with. And so therefore, everybody who is pro open border, this is what you've hoped for and what you've voted for. And it's ignorance on our part, because I had no idea that Biden had put this in his. See, we don't go that far. We just want to look at somebody and hear what they say, or look at the color of their skin, or if they're a woman or if they're a man, and that's how we're going to vote. But the ignorance of us who vote that way, you're going to be one of the reasons why this happens. And so when you have to call the police because your house is broke into, or your cat gets ate, or your dog gets ate, and then you want to say, you know, cry about it, I'm sorry. You reap what you sow, and I totally believe that. And I believe some of you all will, you know, bad things will happen because of these illegal immigrants. And like I said, the boy that came over on the border that I used to sponsor, I haven't seen him, probably won't see him. Wish him well, but you know, I paid $40,000 to get my daughter from China. We adopted her, and we did it the legal way, and she's a U.S. citizen, and so, you know, that makes me angry that everything just come across, and you know, but it has to happen because we're in the end days, you know,
and that's so hard to, you know.
And everybody thinks Trump's going to fix it. Trump ain't going to fix nothing.
It might put a hold on what is inevitable.
Well, and it's like when the meetings, when in the last episode we talked about these plans have been happening since Baby Bush, when he was in office, and then when Trump got in office, all the meetings with the WHO stopped. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as Joe Biden got back in the office, the meetings started again. And so, yeah, there is times that Trump has, and he drives me crazy. I'm not looking for a savior. I'm not looking for somebody who knows. I need somebody who's just going to lead he loves our country. And he really, I mean, he does look at it, the money side of it. And I appreciate that. I mean, Jesus is my savior. I hope he's saved. I hope somebody reaches him. I mean, he says some of the off-the-wall things sometimes, but I just need him to lead our country. And, you know, my husband is in very much belief that Trump is going to save America. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Now, come December, depending on who wins, we may have a different conversation. I may be apologizing to you all for not having an open mind, but everything that I've called and researched, and because I research everything now, I was not a good student. I didn't make good grades at all. But this right here, I'm a researcher. I love it, and it's just who I am. But research this stuff, because this is true. People aren't just saying this stuff and pulling it out of thin air. There is proof to it. And the people who just choose not to see it, you reap what you sow. And I hate to be like that, but at some point, like I'm so done spoon feeding the people around me, saying the same thing, and then them just not believe it. So I've got to the point where I don't really speak much on it. I don't speak much on politics. I speak more about Jesus, and I'll tell people all the time, y'all waiting on this Savior Trump to come in here and save you. I mean, I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to do everything I possibly can, but I just believe that we are in the last days. I don't believe anybody's going to save us except Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's just where I'm at. So, I don't know. What else you got? I mean, if you even think of the last days, I mean, you think of like Left Behind and the chaos and stuff.
He also recommended a book, Letters to the American Church by Eric McTaxis. So that'll be one.
Yes.
To read. And just that Revelation 12:9, it says, and the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, he who accuses them before our God day and night. And so it's just another verse, and God's telling you, like, He's the deceiver. He's going to deceive the whole earth. Pray that you're not deceived.
That's what the
And
Bible
keep your
says.
mind on things above.
It says, let no man deceive you. And that's hard because, I think there's so much deception in our world today that it's hard to find the truth. You really have to seek truth. And the Bible is the only truth there is. So everybody's looking for a perfect man to run the country, and it's just, he was murdered. And he's coming back. And I try to prepare everybody. And I know I hear so many people, they'll message me and they'll be like, nobody's listening to me. I feel like I'm crazy. My family doesn't believe. Give them some time. You keep speaking truth. Don't give up on them. Look how long, it took me a long time. It was 43 before I really started. And I loved Jesus my whole life. But I never studied. I'd do like a 5-minute devotion and think that was good. And it was good. It was good. But it wasn't making me strong or helping me to stand strong in the last days. It's going to take more than a 5-minute devotion to fix the things in your life. There's times that I cling to that Bible because that's all I had. He was stripping things away from me that I cling to. But man, I look at it now and I just thank the Lord that He's in control and that He wasn't easy on me. It was hard. It was a hard time to make yourself want to study because you always fall asleep or you get tired or distractions. You got your favorite TV show that you're watching at night, and at some point it's maturity. And
put your phone down.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard to do. And so you have to give grace to yourself and to the people around you, but you always have to speak truth and let them think you're crazy. Let them think you're crazy, because now people will contact me and they'll be like, you know what? I thought you were crazy, but I'm now seeing that it is going exactly like, and I wish I could give everybody hope and be like, Trump gets in, it's going to change, but I believe we are in the last days. I don't even know that we're going to make it for the election. That's just my beliefs, and that may be wrong, and I may be sitting here on November 4th. And I did ask Pastor Billy Crone, went forward, and I was like, okay, I have a question. He was like, all right. I said, so Jesus used those spring feasts to come. And he said, and I said, so I believe He will use those fall feasts. He said, absolutely. He said, but because I said, the Feast of Trumpets was about to come, was about to be, I think it's October 3rd. And I said, do you think He could possibly use that? And he was like, absolutely. But if you only say He's coming back on the Feast of Trumpets, then you take that imminence away, And so he was like, don't put Him in a box, but He very well could use those fall feasts for something. It might not be back. It might not be for the rapture, but I still believe that, just because it's so, if you read it and you read all the things, that's exactly, it might not be this feast or whatever, but I guess basically what pastors say is that He could come at any time. But what I have realized about God is He's very calculated. Yeah. He's never been like spontaneous. Just there is a feast, or there 40 days, 40 days, 40 days, 40 days, 40 days, 40 days, 40 days. And on 41 days, something happened. You're in the wilderness for 40 days, and on that 41st day, something happened. In every story of the Bible, He's very calculated. He's not just when He wants to. So, it will be interesting, but we'll see. So, you got anything else for the joy? It always reminds me of the song, I have a joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? So anyway, all right. Well, when you're watching this, I'll be on the beach. And Lisa's
don't walk around in gloom and doom.
Yes, yes. I plan on the whole time I'm there talking about Jesus. I just love to talk about Jesus all the time. My family's probably going to make me sleep out on a lawn chair or a pool chair, because they'll be so tired of me talking about Jesus. But I don't know. That's just who I am. So find the joy. The joy is Jesus. And if you want joy in your life, in the middle of chaos, He's the only way. So we do pray for you. We do, our viewers, because some of you all do have feedback. Some of you follow us on different platforms or whatever. And it is good to hear stories from you all.
It encourages us.
It does. Because at times we come in here and it's like, Are we reaching anybody? Is
Yeah.
anybody really hearing us? But we just got to keep doing it, even if it just reaches one person. So, all right. Well, we hope that you have a great week. And if we are not together in the air, we will see you next week.